Today, the borderland region of Morocco and Algeria is covered in sand and mountains, and nothing eventful really happens there. But 100 million years ago, in the mid-Cretaceous period, this exact region was by far the most dangerous land ecosystem in all of Earth's history. Back in the mid-Cretaceous, North Africa wasn't a desert. It was a vast, thriving wetland. Massive rivers carved the land, spilling into massive lakes and sprawling floodplains. Instead of dunes, there was dense forest and thick, muddy banks teeming with life. If anything, it looked less like a desert and more like the Amazon River basin. And if you know a thing or two about the Amazon, you'll know that it's home to some of the most diverse and deadliest wildlife on Earth. In North Africa back then was absolutely no exception. But unlike the Amazon, this ecosystem wasn't just packed with predators, it was dominated by them. No matter if you were on land, waters, and even the sky, absolutely nowhere was safe. The heart of this prehistoric nightmare lies in what paleontologists called the Kem Kem beds, a stretch of fossil-rich rock exposed along the border of modern-day Morocco and Algeria. Today, the area is remote and barren, but dig into the sandstones and you're peeling back the layers of a long-lost world that was teeming with life and death. The Kem Kem beds were formed around 95 to 100 million years ago during the mid-Cretaceous period. Back then, this region sat on the edge of the ancient Tethys Ocean, with a sprawling network of rivers, swamps, and deltas spilling inland. These sediments, the ones now we call the Kem Kem beds, preserve the bones, teeth, and footprints of some of the most terrifying creatures to ever exist. What makes the Kem Kem bed so unusual isn't just the number of fossils, it's what kind of fossils dominate the site. Most fossil ecosystems are filled with herbivores, with predators make up only a small percentage of the population, but in the Kem Kem group it was actually dominated by carnivores, by a large margin in fact. This absolutely stumped paleontologists as this was highly unusual. There are many theories and ideas about why this region was dominated by predators instead of herbivores, but I'll get into that later. What's even stranger is just how big these predators were. We're not talking about small scavengers or opportunistic hunters. These were some of the most infamous apex predators of all time, but which ones? Well, this one definitely doesn't need an introduction. The Spinosaurus, easily one of the most iconic prehistoric predators ever discovered. Spinosaurus, meaning spine lizard, was a massive theropod which was named for its towering spines on its back, which was supported by a large sail-like structure whose function is still debated. Some researchers believe that the sail may have been used for display, thermoregulation, or even aiding in swimming. Spinosaurus was first discovered in 1915 by German paleontologist Ernst Stormer based on fossils found in the Barrier Formation of Egypt. Tragically, the original specimen was destroyed during a British bombing raid on Munich in World War II. However, Stormer had made detailed drawings and notes, which survived and later became extremely important for future research. For decades after that, no significant Spinosaurus fossils were ever surfaced, but that changed in 1996 when paleontologist Dale Russell described a cervical vertebra from the Kem Kem beds in Morocco, making the first major Spinosaurus-related find in over 80 years. Since its discovery, Spinosaurus has been considered a contender for the title of the largest theropod dinosaur, competing with the likes of T-Rex and Giganotosaurus. Size estimates for Spinosaurus vary, but paleontologists generally estimate that it was between 14 to 18 meters in length and weighed around 7.4 metric tons. For comparison, Giganotosaurus is estimated to have weighed around 8 tons and T-Rex around 9.5 tons. So while Spinosaurus may have not been the heaviest theropod, it was likely the longest. But what really sets Spinosaurus apart isn't just its size, it's how different it was from the other large theropods. Unlike the more traditional land-based predators like T-Rex, Spinosaurus is believed to have led a largely semi-aquatic lifestyle. Its long and narrow skull was more like of a crocodile, with conical, non-serrated teeth, ideal for catching slippery prey like fish. Its nostrils were positioned further back on its snout, allowing it to breathe while partially submerged. Fossil evidence suggests Spinosaurus may have hunted in river systems and coastal environments, using its strong forelimbs with large claws to slash at fish or drag prey from the water. Its dense bones thought to help with buoyancy control, and its paddle-like feet suggest it may have been a capable swimmer, possibly even using a tail for propulsion, like a modern-day alligator. However, this is still widely debated. This combination of aquatic adaptations and sheer size makes Spinosaurus one of the most unique and specialized carnivorous dinosaurs ever discovered. It challenged the traditional view of theropods as strictly terrestrial hunters and opened up new perspectives on how diverse dinosaur lifestyles really were. Now, if you thought sharing an ecosystem with one mega predator was bad enough, let me introduce you to Carcharodontosaurus, a dinosaur that lived alongside Spinosaurus and came pretty close in size and ferocity. The name Carcharodontosaurus means shark-toothed lizard, a reference to its large serrated teeth that resemble those of a great white shark. With a body stretching between 11 to 12 meters and an estimated weight of 5 to 7 metric tons, it wasn't quite as massive as Spinosaurus, but it was still one of the largest terrestrial predators to ever walk the earth. Now, the idea of two massive carnivores coexisting might seem like a recipe for a constant conflict, but nature tends to find a balance. While there is some evidence to suggest that Spinosaurus and Carcharodontosaurus occasionally competed over food or territory, direct confrontation between the two was probably rare. That's because these predators occupy different ecological niches. Spinosaurus was semi-aquatic, adapted for hunting in rivers and lakes. On the other hand, Carcharodontosaurus was a more traditional terrestrial predator. It relied on its immense size, speed, and slicing teeth to hunt land-dwelling prey, potentially including hadrosaurs and even juvenile sauropods. However, scientists still are not 100% sure. Carcharodontosaurus' teeth, some of which grew over 8 inches long, weren't built for crushing bone like T-Rex. They were made for tearing flesh, inflicting deep bleeding wounds that would rapidly debilitate prey. This predator likely used ambush or pursuit strategies, delivering a flurry of lacerating bites rather than relying on a single overpowering chomp. Carcharodontosaurus may not have had a crushing bite force like T-Rex, but it is believed to have been surprisingly fast for a predator of its scale. Estimates suggest it could reach up to speeds of up to 32 kilometers an hour, a remarkable feat for an animal that weighed several tons. Upon closer examination of Carcharodontosaurus fossils, paleontologists identified evidence of preserved lung tissue that contained air sacs, structures very similar to those found in modern birds. These air sacs are part of an incredibly efficient respiratory system that allows for a continuous flow of oxygen through the lungs. This adaptation enables higher oxygen saturation in the bloodstream, which is crucial for endurance and stamina. So with its immense size, large teeth, and impressive speed, the Carcharodontosaurus was one of the last dinosaurs you'd ever want to come across. But now, if you thought these were the only two predatory theropods who roamed North Africa during the mid-Cretaceous, you'd be dead wrong. No pun intended. North Africa during the mid-Cretaceous was also home to both Abelisaur and Deltadromeus, two smaller but still very formidable theropods. Belonging to the Abelisauridae family, Abelisaur, meaning Abel's lizard, was a stocky, muscular dinosaur with a short, deep skull and tiny arms similar to that of a Carnotaurus, probably because they were both part of the same family. Its jaws were lined with sharp, serrated teeth perfectly for tearing into flesh, and its thick neck muscles suggest it relied heavily on powerful bites to subdue prey. While its exact size is debated, most estimates place it around 7 to 9 meters long. Abelisaurids were likely ambush predators, using short bursts of speed to strike down smaller dinosaurs and possibly scavenging when the opportunity presented itself. Then there's Deltadromeus, whose name means Delta Runner, and for good reason. This dinosaur was built like a sprinter. With slender body and long legs and a lightweight frame, it's likely relied on speed and agility to chase down prey or avoid conflict with larger carnivores. Measuring about 8 to 9 meters in length, Deltadromeus might not have been the biggest predator around, but it made up for it with its athleticism. Unfortunately, I can't go into too much depth about all these predators that roam in mid-Cretaceous North Africa, as this video would be way too long, but hopefully in the future I can make their own dedicated videos, but you get the point. Mid-Cretaceous North Africa was absolutely dominated by predators. But how can so many predators exist at the same time with so little herbivores? Well, it's widely debated among scientists, but there are a few main ideas. And one of them being that all these predators served different niches and hunted different prey. For example, Spinosaurus was semi-aquatic and likely hunted mostly fish. While Carcharodontosaurus went after terrestrial animals, Deltadromeus may have hunted smaller, faster prey, and Abelisaurus could have been a scavenger or ambush predator. Their diets and behaviors didn't completely overlap, allowing them to coexist without directly outcompeting one another. These unique conditions gave rise to what many paleontologists now consider the most terrifying land ecosystem in prehistoric history. Now, you might be thinking, sure, the land was dangerous, but the rivers and skies couldn't have been that bad, right? Well, I hate to break it to you, but you'd be very wrong. In fact, it could be argued that the rivers and waters around the region were even more dangerous than land. Onchopriestes was a giant marine creature that reached the lengths of up to 8 to 9 meters and was armed with a vicious rostrum lined with sharp, barbed teeth. It looked like a living chainsaw, and it used that saw to slash through prey, and possibly even defend itself from larger predators. In fact, Onchopriestes spines have been found embedded in Spinosaurus fossils, suggesting that these two aquatic titans may have tangled from time to time. Then you have the crocodilians-like Elosicus, with its long gharial-like snout built perfectly for fishing, or Langonosicus and Agassicus, crocodilians with wide, flat heads that lay motionless in the shallows waiting to ambush unsuspecting fish or smaller reptiles. These creatures acted almost like living bear traps, snapping shut on anything that ventured too close. However, it wasn't just the crocs that lurked in these waters, it was also teeming with fish. Massive fish, to be more specific. Axolotl was a fish that grew up to 2.5 meters in length. It was slow-moving, heavily armed fish that would use its powerful jaws to ambush prey in murky waters. And the skies were not that much better than land and the waters of mid-Cretaceous North Africa. The skies were littered with massive pterosaurs. The Sarcosuchus, meaning wings of Sekiro, was a massive pterosaur that dominated the skies of North Africa. While the full size is uncertain due to limited fossil remains, estimates suggest a wingspan of about 4 to 5 meters. For comparison, the largest eagle today, the harpy eagle, has a wingspan of about 2 meters. Some paleontologists have even debated whether Saccharopteryx is a distinct genus or simply a regional variation of Coloborhynchus or Ornithorhynchus, though it currently holds its own genus status. The most well-preserved fossil we have is a part of its upper jaw, which shows its long, narrow snout lined with interlocking conical teeth, classic traits of a fish-eating lifestyle. This kind of dentition, along with the jaw shape, indicates that Sarcopteryx likely hunted in a swooping manner, grabbing fish near the water surface while in flight. Living in the fish-rich wetlands of the Kem Kem ecosystem, Sarcosuchus would have had shared the skies with other large pterosaurs and preyed on the abundant aquatic life below. Its sleek, aerodynamic body and its long wings made it well adapted to covering large distances in search of food, showing us the sky was just as dangerous as the land and the bodies of water. However, all good things must come to an end. Around 90 million years ago, rising sea levels flooded mid-Cretaceous North Africa, turning the once thriving ecosystem into an uninhabited expanse and wiping out most of the species that called it home, bringing an end to what is widely regarded as the most dangerous place in Earth's history. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you all soon.